1. We have liftoff. We're here again, Claire, and look at us with our yellow.
Day four, and I mean, Jenny, we've been laughing, haven't we? Because Monday we arrived and we were both wearing bright red kind of flash colours. Tuesday we arrived, we had kind of a pale kind of colours. And today, look at us, yellow gals. It's like, wow, without even consulting, we probably would have not done it if we consulted each other.
Nobody's going to believe this. Honestly, wow.
A lot of shine and a lot of energy, you know. So I love wearing the yellow. And when I do my keynote and all that, Jenny, I always wear, now it's my little thing, you know, I'll wear a yellow jacket, I'll wear my scarf, or I'll wear my yellow shoes, or my yellow shoes are just like really powerful yellow shoes. And it just makes me feel shiny, you know. I'm shining all over the place, and so I can radiate on other people. That's my theory anyway.
It's linked to the intellect, isn't it? They do say never paint your bedroom yellow because it stimulates the intellect. You might not be sleeping. So that's what I've been told. Whether I've heard it, read it in a book, stolen it off somebody else, I don't know, but it's in there that yellow stimulates the intellect. And maybe unconsciously I thought, oh, we're going to talk about intellectual things here. We're going to be talking about words and reframing. And I need to have my intelligent head on.
Is that right? So yes, so today I think it's really important to really kind of go, you know, that anyway, all of those NLP techniques, I find them all really important, as much important as one or the other. I keep saying that one's really important, but that one's really important. But you know, and what we've got our monkey brain, haven't we? We talk to ourselves inside, and sometimes we're not very nice to ourselves, are we? I mean, we probably wouldn't even talk to our dog or our animals like that, because you know we're kinder to other people than where we are with ourselves sometimes.
Well, yes, there's many things that we can talk about here, but one of the favourites of mine, as you know, Claire, as I used to have so many weight control, because we don't say loss, and you can tell them why, weight control clients who would say, eventually, because to begin with, they would say, oh, I need to lose a bit of weight, or I'd just like to stop eating something, always about the negative. But finally, when I would say, for what reason are you here? Because we don't say why. That's another thing to analyse as well. For what reason have you come to see me today? Or even better, what would you like to be different when you leave here today? And they might even get to the stage of saying, well, I don't want to be fat. You know what I would say? Well, you're not fat, are you? Like, I don't say, I am blue eyes. I say, I have blue eyes. If you want to say you are fat, then you also have to say, I am blood and bone and skin and that very fetching outfit you're wearing at the moment. You know, if you want to identify with something, identify with the positives of yourself. If you despise fat, the stored energy we happen to have in our bodies, if you despise that and yet put yourself at the identity level with that which you hate, if you keep telling yourself that you are fat, then you're going to create more of it. You're going to certainly put yourself in a bad mood in any case.
And you know, I mean, I've when COVID-19 hits, you know, you know about it. We've had a conversation about it, and my brain couldn't cope. I mean, I was just, I'd lost faith in myself. You know, things in my head, I was just talking to myself and saying, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And a real, which is unlike me. It really is unlike me, because I'm always so very positive and, that kind of things. And I could hear myself saying those things in my head and saying there was nothing I could stop to change it. And this is what's been really weird and really strange for people, is having to try to change the way they think to make them feel better. Is that
well? It begins with capturing how we're thinking, and how we talk to each other is a good indication of how we talk to ourselves. And without having others to spark off and to catch ourselves thinking, then it's sometimes hard to address our own thoughts. You're talking to your best friend, or you're talking to a neighbour down the street, and you happen to catch yourself say something, and it's usually by their response for them saying, "Really? Always? Is that always the case?" And then you start to perhaps recognise how you're speaking, because we kind of get trapped in our own head. You're right, Claire. And having somebody, it doesn't have to be your best friend, it can be your worst enemy. Sometimes they're our greatest teachers when they bring to attention something. And I'll share something with you that happened to me a few weeks ago, when something happened which somebody thought ought to make me angry, because that's how they would behave. We judge other people by our own behaviour. And they actually, in a text message, called me, pulling back the words is my micro expression, passive aggressive. They called me passive aggressive. And I had a little word with myself, and I said to myself, there's nobody else here. I said to myself, well, if I was to reframe that, do I prefer, if it's one of two options, do I prefer to be passive aggressive or aggressive aggressive? And I thought, I wonder how aggressive aggressive is working out for her. Yes, it was a her. And I thought, actually, jealousy is a terrible thing. I thought there was a bit of that mixed in with it. And I thought, I suppose I would prefer to be passive aggressive than aggressive aggressive. But I really didn't think, at that moment, I wasn't feeling particularly aggressive passively or otherwise. But she thought I ought to be, So it's interesting when we have these interactions with others, it does make us address our own perceptions, and we then could feel insulted, we can feel defensive, there's this lovely book that I've had for many years and is very, very tattered now, A Course in Miracles, and that says one of those lessons, you do one lesson every day for a year, 365 lessons, and it's wonderful. And one of those that I did many, many years ago was we attack when we defend ourselves when we believe that we are being attacked.
Right.
And so whenever I find myself justifying things or defending myself overtly, I think, do I feel attacked here? And is that attack real? Is it imagined? Is it my own sensitivity? And it's time for a reframe, Jen. It's time for a reframe.
Yeah, and so this is also very much, it is an NLP, but it's also, we call it emotional intelligence, isn't it? This is for us to actually, when you're realizing, so that self-realization that something's happening, you're feeling something's coming up, whether it's happy or whether it's sad or whether it's angry, and then you can start monitoring and managing your emotions by being very aware of what's happening. So that's self-awareness. It's really key, isn't it?
Well, the worst thing is to ignore, of course, because in those moments of self-reflection that you're talking about, in this isolation and lockdown, etc., even if we've got other people that we live with, if we're not facing those feelings and working through them, and like I did with the passive-aggressive thing, I was hurt. I'll admit I was very hurt, knowing that somebody felt that way about me, a kind of character assassination. I thought they liked me. Who wouldn't like me? I'm very likable, aren't I, Claire? This is what I tell myself. an illusion to make myself feel better or not, I don't know. So I do think that once we have those feelings outside of us and either get annoyed or get upset or whatever, that's the moment of self-analysis where we can go to other friends or family members and say, do you think this? And often they think we're fishing for compliments. They're like, oh, of course not. Well, maybe sometimes. What?
Surely not.
Oh, me? I'm far more erudite than that. No. Everything's a perception, isn't it? And what is the biggie is how we perceive ourselves. And if there might be some behavioural tweak that can mean that we get along better with other people, not that we suddenly change our character in order to please them. That's the danger point as well. But just little tweaks in reframing our own thoughts, that can make a huge difference. And you can see here we've got kinesthetic and auditory digital going on. What we hear and what we mean by what we hear, and then what we say to others and how we speak to ourselves is responsible, we're able to respond, responsible for our mood, our state of being, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the world. It's important, this reframing.
And there was so again, I'll refer to the week we've had together. That was 3 or 4 years ago, so it was very powerful. Obviously, you could tell that I'm still in it. But we had there was a lady who came within the group who had a fear of spider. I don't know if you remember. And there suddenly, from a spider, we had something with long legs, wearing purple leggings with a hat on and glasses on and singing some silly music on. So tell us a little bit about that kind of reframing.
Well, a lot of our fears, and fear is a big one, particularly at the moment, but it's always been there. These phobias, etc., are our fears. And it's often presented by people who think that they cannot visualize or they're not very imaginative. In order to have a phobia, in order to be so frightened of something occurring in one's environment, you have to be very imaginative. You have to imagine that this thing, this potentiality, this fear, this anchor of something terrifying could possibly happen at any moment. And that even if you saw a picture of one in a book, or if somebody said the word, or something echoed the shape of it, like the top of a tomato, which I think is what promoted this. I thought it was a spider. That is such has such a crucial effect on one's well-being. Then that person is very imaginative. That person is very visual. In that moment, their protection mechanism for this terrible tiny creature that may end their life is so profound that that's working overtime. And so people say to me, particularly those that come to me with phobias, and you've witnessed this, what one lady thought I had a drawer full of various insects and bugs and things in a drawer that I was going to present. Let me just find the appropriate. Was it a grasshopper? No, it's not a grasshopper. Daddy long leg. Oh. Spiders are okay as long as they don't fly, she said. We have our own particular phobias, etc. There's a difference, isn't there, Claire, between having a phobia that something is so terrifying that we know it's irrational because we know it's provoking the fight or flight response. We've got to get the hell out of here. or stand here and fight. There's a difference between a phobia and not liking something. So when somebody presents a phobia, it's really, oh, bless you, bless you. When somebody presents a phobia, what they're saying is, I have a memory of something that is far more terrifying. I've made it so. It's far more terrifying than the actual thing. Because if the actual thing was presented, most of the people in the room, they might not like it, but they wouldn't have that same fight or flight response. So what we did is we took the submodalities of it. We said, okay, this thing, we won't even say the word because the word is terrifying. The word has elicited a certain state. This thing that you're so terrified of, is it? Would it be more terrifying if it was moving or still? Oh, moving. Would it be more terrifying if it was one colour or another? And what colour is it? Oh, it's big and it's black. Okay, so it's small. And so the reframe is, if in your mind it's big, it's now small. And if it was black, it's now pink. And if it was noisy, it's now silent. If it was silent, it's now noisy. You know, we would change the memory of it, because everything that's gone before, as we've said in previous talks, everything that's gone before is a memory. And what we do is we project that memory into the future, often to keep ourselves safe. If it's a terrifying memory, then we need, when they are willing, we need to address that memory, deal with the submodalities, the elements of that fear, collapse it down, and then when they see the thing and experience it in the present moment, there's not going to be that memory of fear.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. So this is like a phobia kind of things where somebody really is scared of something. But this works for anxiety as well, isn't it? That's the same that's the same reasoning. So if you're anxious, maybe going out or maybe staying in, depending on where you are at this moment in time. But I think a lot of people have been confined, feeling nice and safe in their environment, in their little bubbles, and now we're asking them to come back out again. People can start getting a little bit anxious again, and the fear of the pandemic, the wearing a mask, the am I going to catch it, am I going to die from it, all that is also in your head, and it's also a reframing process, isn't it?
Well, I would say that in itself is a choice, because I would rather, I think it's more positive. Again, I'd like people to comment here. What do you think? Even if you're watching the replay, thank you. I would say, my opinion is, when someone presents with anxiety, they are worried about the future. I can do something with that. I can address those worries. We can examine them and see if they're irrational fears or if they're elements that we need to address in order to keep the person safe. Because, as you know, the prime directive of the unconscious mind is to keep you safe. So anxiety is a worry about the future. Depression, however, is the feeling that one doesn't have a future, that there's no point, that it's hopeless. And that's a kind of a backwards reflecting state of mind. Whereas anxiety, I can work with that. Depression will have to work with the past. Anxiety will have to work with the future. And what is happening right now. There's a lot to be said about presence. So when one is present here in the present moment, unless somebody mentions a spider, being as that was the focus, then we're okay. As soon as somebody mentioned it or it put into our awareness, or we see one, etc., then that's a change of state, which can be an unresourceful state, throwing all these NLP terms in for you now. Though I'd like to talk about resolving something. there, if this person presented to me that was very worried about the future, very worried about a situation which could bring them harm, then we'll need to perhaps use that control panel idea on a scale of 0 to 10. Just how terrified, I'd use their words, just how terrified are you of going outside? And this perceived threat, how real is it? And in that realization of it, what can you do to make yourself as safe as you possibly can? Oh, and sometimes it's like driving. It's not me. I drive very well. I'm a very careful driver. It's all those others. I can't make them drive properly. Well, what can you do? Maybe you drive even more carefully then. Maybe you avoid situations where you be more at risk. So whether it's this virus, whether it's passing a driving test, or whether it's meeting someone that you know you are in a contentious position with, going to court or whatever, what is the threat? And what steps can you practically take in order to bring some calm, some resolve? You've solved many things in the past. How can we solve this situation, which you cannot exert control over, though you can exercise control from within the situation? You see, sometimes, Claire, I think we make it all so big in our own mind. This is a global pandemic. This is big. This is huge. Though how does it affect me going to the shop right now to buy food that I need in order to keep myself safe? You know, there's many ways to create anxiety. You can have anxiety by thinking you're not going to have any food tonight. You know, there's many ways to experience anxiety, and there's many ways to solve it. Okay, that solution didn't make sense, staying in and never going out again. Now, that solution didn't make sense, so let's solve it. Let's look for another solution, a solution, a resolution. What resolution would you make right now to address this anxiety? Certainly being in the present moment and addressing one's worries. See, it's quite tricky to talk generally speaking, because when I get a client in front of me, I can be very specific, like the lady with the spider. And it's in that specificality. It's knowing the language that she's using. It's knowing how the fear presents and how the memory of something got corrupted. Letting that be presented to me in the present moment means I can solve it for her. It's based upon what she presents. So if you give me an idea of what, like you have done, what could be presented, then allow me to solve it. Allow me to be responsible. I have the ability to respond to what is presented using those words with you.
And so again, you kind of, we talked about mirroring and that kind of things, but that's the same thing. You're using the mirroring, you're using the same words that they're using, so you're connecting with them, and the words are very powerful on there. So, and you say cast a spell, and that, you're talking about words, isn't it? Really, that is casting spells, really, just the way that we use the words, how we use them, in the contents, you know. So I've redone my website not so long ago, and actually once I finished it all, I just went through again and I was looking for sensorial words to add, because that is very much, you know, about trying to connect on an emotional level with the people who are going to read my copy or going to read my blog or whatever. That's a really nice way to connect with them, isn't it?
Absolutely, and there's a lot of words used that we don't examine, and some people might think I'm overly pedantic with this, but it's important because the words echo round one's head. For example, I'll sometimes say a phrase when everybody's talking at the same time, and even on these wonderful interfaces we have with the computer to communicate with each other, various ones, though there are some where people can talk at the same time, others where it won't, the software won't allow you to, it will only listen to the presenter. And I find that very interesting, that we can still interrupt each other and still talk about what we're thinking before listening to the other person, you know. And I slip in some things sometimes to make people think. And one of those things I've slipped in recently is because we do lots of demonstrating. I nearly gave the game away then. And demonstrating about phobias and fears, etc. And I'll just, when everybody's talking, I'll say, okay, it's time for some demonstrating now. What? some demonstrating. I'm going to demonstrate to get rid of some demons. Let me straighten out some demons for you. And they go, play with words, yes.
But the words subconsciously connect, isn't it? That's the thing. You know, the play on words will hit the back of the head, the right brain, when it actually, you know, that limbic brain where you're connecting with those thoughts and the emotions and the feelings and that kind of things. That's where it hits the most, those words.
Well, even the term that I just used makes me think. You know, when people use a word, it makes me think. Or if somebody's using it in a negative way, they could say, oh, it's raining today. That makes me think I ought to stay in. It makes me think this. He said that to me, and it makes me think that I'm not blah, blah, blah. That term makes me think. It's very interesting to me, Claire, because nobody can make you think. You're the one that thinks in your own head. So it's your relationship with your environment and what's said. And if you just use that one term and be alert to it, you know, on the courses, we often pick on something somebody says. In every course, there seems to be a particular phrase, like, yeah, but, if you remember.
Yes, but.
Yeah, but. And
yes,
saying, yes, but. So we'll talk about that in a second. But let's just use that term, because I brought it up, makes me think. I have so many clients and we do so many seminars when somebody says, yes, but it makes me think. They might even combine the two. Yeah, but that makes me think. Well, I don't have the power to make you think. But it might be an idea to swap that makes me think to causes me to think. So this pandemic, this situation causes me to think. So when you say cause, you function in a different way in your mind. You think, I wonder what caused me to think that way. I wonder what promoted that to the forefront of my mind. Nobody makes me think anything, though they do cause me to analyze what those words mean. For example, I had an apology many years ago, and it was in a corporate situation, and it was well deserved. I'll tell you that. The written apology was, the phrase was, I'm sorry. Okay, this person's sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry you got upset. So, straight away, because you know what I'm like, Claire. You're sorry I got upset, rather than being sorry or apologetic about your own behaviour. That's a different thing. Whereas somebody else might have thought, oh, they said they're sorry, that's okay. No, I took it to the partners of the firm, who probably thought, oh my goodness, it's Jennie. I don't think this is actually an adequate apology, because does this actually promote change? Does this stop it happening to anybody else? It's implying that I'm overly sensitive. And that I may be, though there may be other people who could be overly sensitive in this situation. So they got the point in the end, and that's probably why I am from a legal background, as you know, Claire.
And that's probably why you're not working with them anymore.
Through choice. The most powerful thing you can do. Choose to remove yourself from one environment into another, rather than trying to make it work all the time.
So what are actually some of the words that we shouldn't be saying? And I emphasis on the shouldn't.
Well, tell me something that that you feel that you should be doing right now.
Well, I may be trying to do something, but then I'm not doing it, so I stop saying try. You don't try, you just do it, or you don't do it. You know, that's one of the ones that really kind of always gets me back, and I always pause and actually remove that word try.
Well, it's a bit of a cop-out, isn't it? To say, well, I'm trying to lose weight, or I'm trying to be more confident, or are you going to clear up later if you're talking to the kids? I'll try.
Try.
Kind of know. It's like saying, well, I've tried to open the door. You'd know I wasn't actually successful. I do need to point out that this reframing is not just about words, but, you know, words my thing as a writer and as a poet. Words are my thing, and I love them. Though I'm just putting my glasses on now to look intellectual, Claire.
Oh, yeah, that's much better.
This reframing can be context orientated. So you could use a time switch. You could reframe something in terms of time, because as we feel about something at the moment isn't how we felt about it in the past or in the future. If somebody's upset, female is upset by the way they look, I'll sometimes project her into the future, looking back at a photograph of herself now. And that begets an appreciation of youth, because, of course, them in the future, they are older. And so they will then look back at a photograph in all reality, in truth, they'll look back at a photograph of themselves, and that's its own reframe, literally, you know, the frame of a picture. And thoughts are pictures. So this is where we have that kind of reframing with a time switch, with a person switch. Oh, I couldn't see myself doing that. I couldn't see myself going up on stage. Well, who could you see going up on stage? What would they be able to kind of teach you in a mind exercise? How do they stand? What do they look like? Where does that confidence come from? So there's information switches. I couldn't do that. I don't know how. If you did know how, that was something we use quite often on your course, I think, Claire. If somebody said, oh, I don't know, that throwaway comment. So these aren't things that you shouldn't say. These are things to be aware of. A function. If I had a magic wand, how would things be different? So there's various elements of reframing, though the yeah, but and the why and the should and the try and the might, they're all kind of red flags to me, because that's where the magic can happen. If somebody says, oh, well, I don't know, what would I say? If you did know. And they answer. The same person answers, you know. So let's work with that should for a second, because that's magical. So I should do what? What should you be doing at the moment?
Well, I guess I should be finishing my course, really. But I'm here with you. But
well, I'm sure it's all useful. Hopefully, this recording is useful to people. You send us a comment. I should be doing something else instead. I should. I'm presently doing this. I'm in the present moment, and I'm recognizing now there's all these other things for me to do. So I should finish up this quickly and go and do whatever else. I should be doing something else instead. If we take your should and metamorphosize it into could, that promotes choice straight away. So whoever's listening and whatever your thing is about, I should go to the gym, I should be more proactive, I should do this, that and t'other. I should change the should to could. I could be working on the course right now. Instead, I'm having to talk to Jennie and millions of other people. So I could be working on the course. And it kind of promotes that idea, doesn't it, Claire? Though I'm choosing to do this instead. You can also take it a bit further and say, I could be working on the course. Change the could to can. I can be working on the course. So that means I'm doing this.
Yeah, that is very, very true. It suddenly moves completely, the dial moves completely, doesn't it?
Yes. So catch yourself thinking should, because quite often it comes out in conversation, yes, and we can catch it. But to be able to think ahead of oneself, or to notice, as soon as I say should, it means that I'm wrong. And we've got nowhere to go with it. We just feel wrong. But saying I should, then I could, then I can, promotes choice. And then on from that is am. So let's say I've been thinking this, and I actually did go for a walk today. I came out of my little cave and I went for a walk. And I've been told, right, the biggest hypnotists on the planet, a man in a white coat, told me I should be going for a walk every day.
Okay.
So this morning, I know you're a big walker. And I know when I was there, we were walking the island every morning. It was wonderful. So I think this is the process I went through, Claire. I woke this morning and I thought, I should go for a walk today. And then the yeah buts came in. Yeah, but I've got this thing to do with Claire, and yeah, but I've got another live stream tonight, and I need all my energy. And well, actually, when I go for a walk, I feel more energetic. So this is the conversation I had. I could go for a walk. Yeah, I could, or I could continue doing. I could go for a walk. It brings it into the realm of possibility rather than I'm damned if I don't. I could go for a walk. I can go for a walk.
Actually.
Weather's not too bad. I'm feeling more positive about the whole idea. I can go for a walk. I can choose not to. How will I feel later if I haven't gone for the walk? So now I'm doing my timelining. You see, people do this naturally. This isn't just NLP. This is the way the mind thinks. And this is me being brutally honest with you guys. I can go for a walk. And then on from that, well, if I can, I might as well go now. I am going for a walk, bringing it into the present tense. Yeah. So it started with a should, it started with an idea. It then went into possibility merely by changing a word, by changing one's language. This kind of happens automatically with me. I should go for a walk. Well, I could go for a walk. I can go for a walk. And then it went into that temporal space. Well, do I do it now? I am going for a walk. In my head, I definitely am going for a walk. Am I going now or am I going later? Oh, I'll go now. Yeah. Do you see how it changes to possibility? And then to actualization. Go on.
And this is pure recipe for procrastination, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Because this is what procrastination is all about. It's I should be doing this and I should be doing that and I should be, and you never get on and you never do it.
And you feel wrong at the same time. You feel bad about it.
Yeah.
We are in the realm of enabling people to feel better in a practical way. A lot of people now, Claire, don't know why they don't feel good. And a lot of it is to do with language and how they beat themselves up, how they tell themselves off. And sometimes it's just a shift in language patterns, you know, and how you receive language. Like I turned something that was intended to be negative into something positive by being told I was passive aggressive. If I just, yeah.
I'm just one other that I'm coming up to as well. When you, something that you said to me, tell the children, don't forget your books for school. And what do? They forget the books. Remember the books for school. And again, those are so powerful. Do not use negative.
Yes.
Use positive into the sentences that you do. That's a pure reframing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm glad you've brought that up. And going back to the words that perhaps we shouldn't say, or the words that are damaging to us, saying not to do something puts the idea in someone's head. And it is used deliberately in court, where certain lawyers and barristers might say this in order to put an idea into the jury's head. And they will risk contempt of court, etc. They'll risk having their wrists slapped because they want that idea in the jury's head. And they will say something, and the judge will say, the jury will disregard that last comment. You can't not think about something when it's been implanted purposely or not. So you're totally reliant on your own processing to deal with either the insult or the self-talk that is to your detriment. Everything that enters your head. Imagine you are a receiver, as you are. You are receiving information, not just spoken, but from billboards, from adverts, from TV, from sitcoms. You're receiving ideas. You are a receiver, but you are also a conceiver. So you receive and you conceive, and then you believe. So we conceptualize by conceiving these ideas that we receive. We can then be a transceiver and emit them out again back into the world so that other people can perceive them. And all this idea of being a receiver, reception, perception, and deception, start to see the relationship between them. So we get very reliant really on how we process stuff in here after receiving it. So things to look out for, rather than not to say, yeah, but, always negates what's gone before. And we do it in a kind of polite way. Claire and Jennie spoke about wearing yellow this morning, and they yeah, but they must have really known, hadn't they? Yeah, but, nothing good really follows yeah, but, you know.
Yeah, be very aware of yeah, but. Actually, that Sarah says, I have always procrastinated. This works brilliantly. I just keep forgetting to do it. And this is true, isn't it? We kind of we forget those things. We will say yes, but, and then suddenly you just, oh, I've just said that, or I should, and then you just suddenly realize you've just said it. So it's a practice, isn't it, really, that we need to practice more and more to do it.
I wonder if Sarah would be brave enough to tell us what she's procrastinating about. Because in order to know that you are procrastinating, it's present now in her thought processes. It's not something that she's forgotten about. She might forget about it, perhaps sometimes deliberately, when she doesn't want to do it. You see, procrastination is based on desire.
Right, yes.
So it might be something that we think we want to do, but we don't actually want to do it. Or we do actually want to do, but we put in everybody else and every other thing first. And then we can feel sorry for ourselves for not having the time to do the thing that was so vitally important to us. Or it might be something that somebody else has told us to do that we think we ought to do, but we kind of conveniently forgot. Or we can make ourselves so busy with lots of other stuff that it just gets pushed to the bottom of the list. And if it's important enough, it will creep back up to the top again. And then that's time for us to use our conception, to conceive, to conjure a strategy, a way to deal with that. Either we deal with it or we put other things on top of it again so it pushes down to the bottom. So, Sarah, come on, tell us all about it. What's this thing you're procrastinating? We might just be able to help you, a couple of experts here.
I know my children procrastinate quite a lot on doing the dishes, and they know very well that if they procrastinate long enough, I'm going to get into that kitchen and I'm going to do it because it just annoys me so much. So they do it. So they just leave it. Oh, I'll do it later, Mother. And it never gets done.
Well, this is an interesting one. This is when the other person, whoever it is that we're communicating with, is relying on our irritation. They're relying on it so that, yes, we do it. And if somebody said to me, I'll do it later, I'll say, what time? Or when I've done this, or when will that be? Let's set an alarm together, shall we? Because I just need to know, because it makes me feel loved, remember? I just need to know when you're going to do it, because I know you don't want me to stop doing what I'm doing to do that. Because if I stop doing what I'm doing, then there's this other thing that's not done. And all of a sudden we're in a situation where there's lots of undone things and we're all miserable. Because I'm miserable because I've had to leave what I'm doing to go and do that. You're miserable because you've told me you're going to do it. And I want you to feel that sense of achievement when you've done it. So you don't want me to be angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, would you? We have whole conversations about this. Oh, my worst is personal me time and work on my PC. Oh, come on, Claire. What do you want to say about me time?
Well, yes. I mean, Sarah, this is the pure, when you're on the plane and they say, put the mask in front of you before you help anybody else. If you are dead, you'll be able to help nobody. And that's a big, big thing. I've been better with it, but it keeps sneaking back in. And actually, Sarah, because you've talked about work on PC, well, actually, diary yourself some time for me. Put it in your diary, that 15 minutes of break, to go and breathe outside, that 20 minutes lunch that you need to eat and, bring some strength into you. And this is, really, 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 really important. It's so important, isn't it, Jennie?
Well, I think we get trapped in a little bit of a politeness loop. And we end up deceiving ourselves. Now, that may sound a bit of a strong word, but it's time to be honest and to simplify the language a little bit, in that it keeps sneaking back in. It keeps sneaking back in, the procrastination. When honestly, what I think it might be, and I'm just grasping at straws here, I've got a lot of lovely psychic friends, but I'm not psychic. So I just have to put things out there and just see what is received, yes, and what is worked upon. So what I think it might be is that once we think we want to do something for ourselves, that is me time. It's been reframed to me time, but it's actually time spent for myself, to do something for myself. You see, we've even reframed it in society so that it's not even for ourselves anymore, it's me time. But when you want to give something to yourself, when you want to do something for yourself, it brings up that kind of ickiness of selfishness. and being not giving to others.
Yes.
You do something for you.
Yeah.
There's all this washing up to be done here before you have your me time. How can you go and have a bath when there's a kitchen full of dirty dishes? So is that it, Sarah? Is it a selfishness thing? Do you think it's being selfish to have your me time? And as it creeps back in, that means also as it sneaks back in. See that language? It's sneaking back in, which means you have addressed it. You have addressed this me time. I'm just purely looking at language patterns. If it's sneaking back in like a little demon, then you have addressed it, and somehow it is sneaking back in. Or are people taking your time? Are people demanding you do things for them instead of doing it for you? Maybe it's not sneaking as much as you think. Maybe it's a kind of strategic attack from one's family that you do things for them rather than you do things for you. I think Claire's got a really good idea there to actually schedule 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And, you know, this is why people have cigarettes. And this is why people just going to the shop for a paper. Do you really need a paper? Or do you want to walk and get away from the rest of the family? You know?
So I think it's creating habits as well, Jennie. I think, you know, I mean, 2, 3, 4 years ago, I mean, probably 3, 4 years ago, I would have never been like that as well. But I really created for myself some habits. So morning habits, what I do before I get up, you know, what I do when I get up, you know, and those becomes part of what I do and who I am. And actually, if I don't do them, it won't feel right for the rest of the day because I haven't done that little bit that I'm normally doing. So I think creating habits and doing it regularly also becomes like you're brushing your teeth. So if you're brushing your teeth every day and you're taking those 2 minutes to brush your teeth, well, take that 5 minutes to go outside and just do nothing for 5 minutes. So, you know, just go and buy the paper every day at 3 o'clock. So you can actually, you know, take that breathing time. And so you creating habits will also help you to make sure that it becomes part of it. You don't have to think about it. It's something that you do as part of your everyday life, like if you're brushing your teeth.
Yeah, and it is linked to values, isn't it? And I won't get too techie with this, but there is an NLP filter called moving towards and moving away from. So brushing your teeth, do you brush your teeth in order for them to be nice and shiny and look white? Or do you brush your teeth to go away from them being grotty and giving you bad breath? You know, for what reason? Where's your motivation? That's what we're talking about. With procrastination, we need motivation too. What moves us towards something? Is it like the carrot and the stick? So I'll ask you, Claire, brushing these teeth, is it to make them nice and shiny or to stop having grotty breath?
Oh, for me, nice and shiny.
Yeah. Yes. Good. No, you know, I always like to be positive, but I will say that this these stretches I do every morning for my back. I say for my back. It's for myself. My back is part of myself. But you see, I'm not saying for myself because that sounds selfish. I have to. I want to. I do most mornings some stretches for my back because I actually enjoy them as well. I actually enjoy doing a bit of yoga every morning. But you know, whoever I've been with, I kind of, I'm a little reticent in enjoying that idea of saying, I love doing my exercises. I have to do my stretches every morning because it helps my back. I know that if I don't do them, Claire, some point during the day, I might go to pick something up or move a chair in the wrong way, not addressing my posture, and then I would suffer for it. So I know, and I've ingrained that into my morning routine, if you like. it's moving away from pain rather than a moving towards pleasure. I do these exercises every morning because I know with my timeline, I know in the future I might suffer if I do not. And then as I start to do them, because I'm moving away from pain or the possibility of pain, I'm actually then moving towards pleasure because I enjoy doing them. And it gives me a break from the rest of the household, etc. And it's a little bit of me time. But I justify it by saying, yeah, I have to do them. I have to do them, or else, something awful might happen to Super Ma. Yeah, the super duper mother that I am. If I don't do these things, then if I don't take the time for me, we talk about spending money, and we can all compare what we think is of value and all the special deals that are on at the moment and what we should buy, etc. You can always get more money somehow. You never get more time. How about that? That's a big reframe for me. In getting older, you never get that time back. And what do you want to have written on your gravestone? Was always doing wonderful things for other people. The kitchen was always spotless.
Yeah, Sarah says, I do think I've always found it selfish. I think we probably have, this is probably beliefs and values that was grown up as you grown up in your family. You may have had that as well, Sarah. People actually made you feel like if you were doing something for yourself that was selfish, and that's probably why you're feeling so strong about it. I don't know. I don't now. Oh, okay, since my recent experience with you, well, there you go. Now I seem to want to get other things done first, then time for myself tend to end up not happening. Okay, so yeah, your priorities have changed. Then you're putting other priorities than yourself before yourself.
Yeah, and that's it. And recognizing that we have that choice. So we've got, say, 15 minutes to do something, 15 or 20 minutes, let's say. In that 20 minutes, I could be cleaning the kitchen, or I could be doing this thing. And maybe I'm choosing to do the kitchen because if I did this thing for me, I wouldn't enjoy it because I'd be worried about the kitchen. Yeah. So knowing that it's a choice is helpful. However, I do guarantee, and I think Claire will agree, that if there's always something else to do first. And sometimes you've just got to do this thing. And you tend to find that people who love you actually delight in you doing something for yourself. Oh, you did that. That's wonderful. I'm really glad you did that for yourself because they like to see you happy.
Exactly.
I do actually like to see you happy. It's not so much that you can do things for them and they will accept it and they're quite grateful in their own way, though you being happy with them in the time that you can spend with them is far more impactful for you sitting there all complacent and self-righteous thinking, I cleaned the kitchen. Has anybody noticed? It's wonderful, isn't it? Look how sparkly the kitchen is. I might be exaggerating, and we seem to have a focus on kitchens at the moment and washing up there.
I think it's just they're just too much. They're in it all the time. That's why.
But it is selfish, and I think self-referenced is a nice reframe, isn't it, Claire? To sometimes refer to oneself as well as others. If we refer to others, which is an NLP filter, if our prime modality, the way that we operate, is to look after, as you tend to have to be as a mother. If you're not that way inclined, you have to be, once you become a mother to some degree, have to look out for others. Though there's this balance about referring to others. Is everybody else okay? Okay. Are they all okay? Right, now I can refer to myself. What do I need? What do I want? What can I do for me? Because when you refer to yourself, like you say, putting your own oxygen mask on first, then you're far more able and willing. Let's remember the willingness We're far more willing to help others and to look after them when we're feeling good and we've attended to our own needs. And that is referring to self. That is being self-referenced rather than selfish.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, amazing. Jenny, I think we're going to have to stop because, again, I think we could speak for another few hours about all this, but we've gone through quite a lot today. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's been watching us, thank you, Sarah, for sharing with us your how you've been feeling as well. That was just amazing to participate and engage with us as well in the conversation. So, Jenny, are we back tomorrow at 3 o'clock? Would you fancy?
I should think so. Try and shut me up. You know what I'm like.
And I think we've got a surprise tomorrow. So we're not going to say anything about tomorrow. You're going to have to come and join us at 3 o'clock tomorrow to see what we're going to be talking about, because that's a big surprise. So I just, for anybody who wants to, we've done some free downloads. So Jenny's done like a happiness anchoring, and I've put a little guide on how to build rapport as well. So if anybody wants to click on the link that Jenny's put under the video, and then you can just go and download the freebies. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Jenny, for your fantastic expertise.
And please use the download. You know, coming to see me in person, I'm very expensive. So it's good to be doing these things for free. Click on the download. All you got to do is put a couple of details in, perhaps just your name, and just get the stuff for free, because it's so valuable, it's so useful, and it's going to help you enormously. And that's what we want to do. We want to reach more people. We want you all to be feeling great, certainly better than before. That's the reason that we're here. So click on the download. Do yourself a favor. Let's get with the program. Come on.
And share the video with anybody else I think that would be benefits. So thank you, Sarah. Thanks for your little thumbs up and thumbs ups to everybody. Whichever time it is in the world, it's 4 o'clock this afternoon here in the UK. So have a fantastic morning, evening, afternoon for anybody, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. I'll see you later, alligator.
Thank you again. Thanks, everybody. Bye. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.